On November 7, 1872, a proud brigantine named the Mary Celeste set sail from New York Harbor bound for Genoa, Italy. Her hull carried over 1,700 barrels of industrial alcohol, valuable, flammable, and tightly packed. At the helm was Captain Benjamin Briggs, a devout Christian, respected sailor, and father. With him, his wife, Sarah, and their 2-year-old daughter, Sophia. A trusted crew of 7 completed the manifest. Experienced men, loyal, seasoned. Everything was in order. The weather forecast was clear. The ship had been recently refurbished. There was no reason to fear. And yet, that was the last time any of them were seen alive. December 5th, 1872, nearly a month since the Mary Celeste vanished into the Atlantic. The British merchant ship Dei Gratia sailed quietly across choppy waters about 600 miles west of Portugal when the lookout spotted something strange. A brig drifting sideways in the waves, sails torn. No clear direction, yet still afloat. The vessel was the Mary Celeste. Captain Morehouse of the Dei Gratia was stunned. He knew Briggs personally. They signaled her. No response. A boarding party rowed across. As they climbed aboard, the silence was deafening. No crew, no sound. Just the groan of wood and creak of rope. Food was still laid out in the galley. Charts and personal belongings were undisturbed. But the lifeboat, gone. And the ship's logbook, last entry, 10 days earlier. No signs of struggle, no blood, no storm damage. It was as if the crew had simply vanished into thin air. What the crew of the Dei Gratia discovered wasn't just an abandoned ship. It was a floating ghost, frozen in time. Meals were still set on the table, bread slightly hardened, water untouched. Children's clothes were still hung neatly in the captain's quarters. The sails were tattered but intact, and the cargo, over 1,700 barrels of industrial alcohol, was untouched. There were no signs of violence, no blood, no panic, not a single struggle anywhere on board. But the lifeboat was missing. The captain's logbook was chilling. The last entry, 10 days earlier. It mentioned nothing unusual. Why would an experienced captain abandon a perfectly functional ship in good weather with his wife and child on board? None of it made sense. When the Mary Celeste was towed to Gibraltar, questions piled up faster than answers. Who would leave a seaworthy ship behind? Why take the lifeboat and not return? Why wasn't there a single body, note, or sign of distress? The British Vice Admiralty Court launched an official investigation. Some suspected mutiny, others whispered about pirates. There were even rumors that the crew of the Dei Gratia had murdered the Mary Celeste's crew for salvage rights. But after weeks of testimony, nothing stuck. No blood, no missing cargo, no signs of foul play. The only damage found? A broken pump and a few barrels of alcohol that had leaked, but not enough to explain the crew's disappearance. In the end, the court awarded a much smaller salvage reward than usual. A polite way of saying, "We don't believe you, but we can't prove anything." The mystery was intact, and the legend of the Mary Celeste only grew stronger. With no evidence, no survivors, and no explanation, the world did what it always does. It imagined the worst. Some believe the barrels of industrial alcohol leaked, filling the ship with flammable fumes. Fearing an explosion, the crew abandoned ship temporarily and were lost at sea before they could return. But there were no burn marks, no signs of panic. Others say a sudden seaquake or waterspout caused chaos, tossing the ship and damaging a pump. In confusion, the crew might have fled, but the Mary Celeste stayed perfectly. Then the darker theories, mutiny from within, or pirates from the outside. But again, no valuables missing, no blood, no bodies. More imaginative minds claim a giant sea monster dragged the crew away, leaving everything else untouched. Myth? Maybe, but the ocean is vast, and we've barely scratched the surface. Aliens? Time rifts? A supernatural curse? It sounds absurd, but when there are no answers, even the impossible starts to feel believable. Some say Captain Briggs tried to fake a tragedy for money, but he brought his wife and daughter on board. Would a father risk their lives for a payout? Each theory is unsettling in its own way, but none explain why a perfectly seaworthy ship was left to drift. And why not a single soul was ever found. You'd think after a tragedy like this, no one would ever set foot on the Mary Celeste again. But the ship was salvaged, repaired, and set out to sea once more. What happened next? Every captain who dared to helm the Mary Celeste met misfortune. One was thrown overboard, another drowned. one shipwrecked off Haiti, deliberately run aground in a final act of desperation. It was as if the ship itself carried a curse, a floating omen of doom. What started as a mystery became a legend, a story whispered in sailor bars, a warning carved into maritime history. The Mary Celeste wasn't just abandoned once. It haunted every man who tried to command her ever again. It wasn't just a ship that was left behind. It was a moment frozen in time. A captain's log, stopped mid-thought. A child's doll, tucked in a bunk. Shuas neatly placed by a bedside. Plates still set on the table, as if dinner would resume at any moment. The Mary Celeste became a drifting tomb. Not a single body aboard. Yet somehow, everything remained. It's as if the crew had vanished into thin air. Their lives paused, but never resumed. To look inside the Mary Celeste is to feel the weight of lives that disappeared, leaving behind only silence and salt. Some say ghosts haunt old mansions, but this ghost lived on a ship, and it sailed alone. No distress call, no signs of struggle, no crew, no answers. The Mary Celeste sailed into history as one of the greatest unsolved mysteries of the sea. Was it fear? Was it foul play? Was it something we can't even begin to understand? To this day, no trace of the crew has ever been found, and the ocean, as always, keeps her secrets. But maybe, just maybe, you can help crack the code. What do you think happened on board the Mary Celeste? Drop your theory in the comments. And if this mystery gave you chills, make sure to subscribe, because next up, we're sailing to the Flannan Isles, where 3 lighthouse keepers vanished without a trace.